As entrepreneurs, we all have to be leaders. Well, I don't know about you. I didn't sign up for leadership or management. I signed up to deliver a great service to clients, and all of a sudden, the business took off. Tremendous responsibility. Many of us as entrepreneurs are kind of accidental or reluctant CEOs. Well, this is something we're going to cure today. We're going to share with you a remarkable individual that I met at Mastermind Talks, Jason Gennard, a good mutual friend, and he recommended strongly that I bring this remarkable entrepreneur on. And what I love about him is not only his passion, but he's always been an entrepreneur since the age of 9, always been an athlete, and you're going to see, whether it was in the military service, in the Marines, whether it was when he ended in Japan and was there for 10 years and studying Aikido and is a 5th degree black belt. He has a passion for the East. He's bringing that thought process from the East to the West, all the entrepreneurship. And he's going to share with us the lessons he's learned on the journey as a serial entrepreneur so that you can provide the leadership to inspire your team, to inspire your clients, to make a huge difference. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. I'm John Bowen. We're at aesnation.com, all about accelerating your success.
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
I am so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's really a pleasure. I mean, technology is amazing that we can just jump together like this over Skype and have full-blown production. Because we met just really quickly at Jason's event. It was a phenomenal event in Napa Valley. It was a great place to really get inspired. And Jason told me some of the work that you were doing and why. I think one of the things I liked at his promotion was. It was by invitation only, and it was actually harder he had over 4,000 some applications to get in to write a check. I think it was $6,000 to him. Only 130 or so actually were accepted. So it was harder to get into Harvard. So everybody was there, was really vetted. It was a phenomenal crowd. And, we got to meet. And I was so impressed, just in the journey that you've had, and as I've gotten to know you a little bit more, I wanted to make sure our AS Nation, our fellow successful entrepreneurs, could to really take some of the leadership, some of the thought training that you've had, and particularly I have done a little consulting in Japan.
Okay,
and it is a different world, East meeting West. So there was a lot that I had to learn along the way. But before we get there, give me a little bit of background so everybody knows where you're coming from, Michael.
Right, sure. So I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania, and always been an athlete, always in love with the martial arts, always in love with Asia. And my passion for the martial arts and being a high achiever in sports took me into the Marine Corps. And from the Marine Corps, that was my entryway into Japan, John. And after graduating from college, I stayed in Japan for about a decade. And I was working as a consultant there, pretty much just to feed my addiction to the martial arts, setting up non-Japanese companies in Japan. And we set up some great companies. Gallo Wine. Speaking of Napa, we set up Gallo in the mid '90s. and made a ton of money on a huge wine boom there. But I basically did that to feed my addiction to the martial arts, and came back to the States and set up a very successful business with the martial arts, and have now segued that into this thought leadership business where I'm teaching people how to apply the principles of the Japanese martial art of Aikido into their business and personal life, primarily around achieving clarity, decisiveness, and ultimately leading to success.
No, it's great. And I mean, it's one of the things that I mentioned earlier on. So many entrepreneurs I know, and really myself too, didn't sign up to have large businesses, and I've had up to 400 employees, and you got to provide a little leadership. And if we want to make this, as Steve Jobs says, a den in the universe,
Sure.
we've got to inspire people to action. And there are so many lessons. And I love the thoughtfulness of the East. And
Yeah.
it did take me a while. I was over there just before the internet bubble burst. It was a $200 million startup. So I'm over there consulting, building out, training, giving speeches all over Japan on financial services, the area that I work in, and traveling with 4 translators. It was kind of it was a time when money wasn't as big an object, although we were able to get almost all the money back for investors too. So it was a great experience, given that the bubble did burst while we were building this company.
That's right.
But it's all this leadership. I mean, one of the things that you have been strong in everything you've done. I mean, you've been a top athlete. Being in the Marines. I mean, clearly, I was in the Navy, so I know. I guess we were in the same forces, but there is a difference. And along the way, and I remember the Marine pilots that I was training with. They had to be in for like 15 months, and I had to be in for 3 months before we got to set into anything interesting. So there was a whole different layout there. But one of the lessons learned that you shared with me is being strong can make you weak. And tell me what that means.
Yeah, so it's interesting, John. One of the best things I did in my establishing my first company was to fire myself from my company. And what led to that was when we talk about being strong can make you weak, in teaching and practicing the martial art of Aikido, I've seen big, strong practitioners learn to muscle their way through a technique until they run into a bigger person that's stronger than them. Whereas a smaller person has to learn to execute properly, to use their surroundings, people, systems, environment. And likewise, one of my biggest strengths is my indomitable work ethic. And that indomitable work ethic soon became my biggest weakness when, in starting a business, I had to do the work. I was the best at sales and marketing. I need to hire and fire. I was quickly overwhelmed by a multitude of distractions. As a matter of fact, on average, John, how many times a day do you think we look at the cell phones on average?
Well, I'm not sure I want to bring mine in for
Yes,
the average, but
on average, 110 times. But high users will look at this little thing 900 to 1,000 times a day, always being distracted. 60% of us, John, with smartphones are connected to work 13 and a half hours per day. I'm sure many in your audience, because I did, wake up in bed and start emailing and go to bed at night with it. They're constantly connected. And it wasn't until age 42 that I took my first vacation. I'd never taken a 2-week vacation in my life. 44% of professionals that do go on vacation will check their work email every day. 1 in 10 will check it every single hour on vacation. We're constantly addicted to these distractions, which lead, especially to high performers, to crashing and burning. So I realized right away my biggest strength, my indomitable work ethic, had become a huge distracting weakness, and I had to do something about it. And that's really tough as high achievers, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, for us to be able to step back and do something about it.
Well, Michael, this is so interesting. I know none of our listeners or viewers, the video podcast, would ever, they can't relate to this stuff. And
Sure.
I'm joking, obviously. This is something so often, we work so hard on our business, particularly when we're young, when we can. We we just keep diving at it. And the idea is we're willing to trade our health for money. And then in our youth, and then as we get old, it's kind of like, okay, we need all that money to try to buy back our youth and health, and we can't. And this is. And I saw it in really, I started changing probably in the late 30s.
Okay.
It started coming to me, and I made a commitment, and I do every year, to take 6 weeks off minimum.
Fabulous.
And it used to be I'd go take like 3 weeks in Africa because you couldn't get contacted.
Beautiful.
In today's world, though, you
Yeah.
pretty much. I did a 2-week trip down the Grand Canyon, and we had satellite phones, so you can pretty in today's world you pretty much can be connected if you want to. And turning it off is really hard to do, but to recharge and we need to be. One of the things that I find in myself, and I know you do too, is that by stepping away from this, and that strength that if you're an entrepreneur, hard charger, you've really been you've been making things happen. You're pretty talented at a lot of things, and because you're talented at a lot of things, and you got high energy, you tend to overdo. And boy, what happens is not only you kill yourself,
Oh,
but you kill the value of your business because
absolutely.
creating those processes, those systems, having a great team around you that actually does better. I mean,
Absolutely.
and this kind of goes to the second lesson that you talk about is that we always have a choice. And
Yes.
what are you stating there?
So, many times, John, we think we don't have a choice. So, I've got to make not the best decision. In other words, I'm going to use willpower, grit. And willpower, grit, all that's important, right? But it's not going to get you to the breakthrough results that I want, you want, that your listeners want. So realize that we always have a choice. Now, that was drilled home deeply for me. As I shared with you, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. I had never been sick a day in my life before I was diagnosed with testicular cancer in my early 30s. And that's a little embarrassing. The good news is redundancy. My right testicle was removed, and there was no spread. It was very easy, very simple. I had a clean diagnosis, no chemotherapy or radiation. It looked like we caught it early. Everything was good, and woohoo, I beat it. I've got everything going. And a few months later, as I continue to get checkups and follow up, you get that bone-chilling message. And my oncologist simply walked in and gave it to me right between the eyes, which is how you want it. Hey, Michael, the cancer spread to your lungs. We got to start chemotherapy. So at that point, all the jokes stopped, John. And when the cancer's in your lungs, I basically had a couple months to live, and we had to start a very aggressive form of chemotherapy. And I'm sure you shared with me your experience with cancer, and I'm sure all of your listeners know somebody in their family, friends, or themselves that have dealt with cancer. And with my particular type, I had to do chemotherapy every day, Monday through Friday, from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. That's 6 hours every day. I mean, I spent that time curled up in the fetal position recovering. And the last step in my treatment was surgery to remove the dead tumors in my left lung. So I had half of my left lung removed, and I'm happy to say, after a few years of recovery with 1.5 lungs, I ran my first marathon. Of course, I had to do the Marine Corps marathon, John, but I ran the marathon on 1.5 lungs. And many times we might think we don't have a choice, but you absolutely have a choice. Facing cancer, your choice is to live. And another time that brought home that there's always a way to do things was when I was in the Marine Corps. I remember, John, the first time I held a live hand grenade and I forgot what to do. I couldn't remember if it was thumb clip, pull pin, or pull pin, thumb clip, but I'm holding the live hand grenade. And somehow I managed to rip the pin out, and it's go time. And I've got 3 options. I can make a great decision and throw it. I could make a horrible decision, right? Be overwhelmed with that drill instructor screaming at me. My ego can get in the way. Like I want to look good in front of my Marine buddies, and maybe I drop it and killing myself or whatever. And the third option is maybe the scariest, right? That you neither throw it nor drop it, but you choose to do nothing, and you hold that grenade for the rest of your life. And I realized, right, decisions in business and life are the exact same thing as that hand grenade. You can either choose to hold it, drop it, or throw it. And many times we don't realize that. We don't realize that we have a choice. And there are certain things we can do to always see the empowering choice. Well, sometimes we're blocked. Our fear, our ego get in the way. Our obsessiveness with either winning or succeeding get in the way of showing us that we do have a choice and to choose the empowering one. And my battle with cancer has really brought that home for me.
Very happy to hear that you won the battle and have I mean, to run the marathon too on 1.5 lungs. I don't know anybody else has done that.
And man, I did end up throwing the hand grenade. I got rid of it. Nobody got hurt. And let me tell you
Oh,
what.
I was gonna say I was gonna come back to that, but I was assuming you did let it go here.
Oh yeah, and I don't know, if many folks, if your listeners have thrown live hand grenade. I don't recommend it, but it is a blast. No pun
Yeah,
intended.
no. They didn't let us do that as pilots. I don't know. We get to drop other things, but we didn't get to hold on to them here. But
Yeah.
the part that, I mean, this is so important. I mean, we have to make a decision, and it's so easy. And this really ties into your first lesson about being strong. I mean, one of the
Yeah.
as entrepreneurs, we have to have strong egos. We can't be egocentric, and it's so easy to be charging and thinking you're the smartest one in the room and
Sure.
always making the decisions. And then, all of a sudden, you're not. Your health isn't there, your energy, the whole thing. And we stop. And one of the things, I've found, really making, you gave it, you can make, that decision to go ahead and do the right thing, okay, which is throw the damn thing pretty far away and duck and cover. And then, the bad decision is to just toss it down, let it go, and the no decision, hanging on to it.
Man, and we
Yeah.
do it all the time, John. Sometimes, I know as entrepreneurs, we think, I'm good at making decisions, and maybe not the best decision, or sometimes maybe it's a personal thing, right? You just want to put that off. And those windows of opportunities open, as you know, but nowadays they close quicker. And if we don't have the clarity, right, to make that right decision at the right time, man, we are just.
Well, and what I like, and I use the term, we're all familiar with ready, aim, fire. I'm a big believer in non-critical, and I'm going to call grenade throwing critical, but non-critical business decisions, they should be ready, fire, and then get the market feedback and aim. And it's, in today's world, it's so easy to pilot so many things and just take action. And my experience has been those individuals who take with their team now, and that's a big distinction, massive deliberate action in a focused direction, they have huge success. They may not have it immediately, but they have it.
Yeah, it's that relevant action, right? Like how many times have we known what we need to do, and then the action we get into doesn't support our goal? We're researching something online. Instead of, like you said, fire it, get into that relevant action, and then tailor it from there too.
Well, let's go to lesson 3. I mean,
Sure.
True victory, by harmony. This is sounding a little east. I
Sure.
live in Silicon Valley. I'm in California. You're on the East Coast, but you're sounding fuzzy. We both grew up in, in the Northeast. I actually went to school in upstate New York and Buffalo, and
wonderful.
so we were pretty close to each other there.
Sure.
So similar backgrounds. That harmony stuff. I mean, as entrepreneurs, we want to win pretty much at
Absolutely.
all costs. I mean, Silicon
Sure.
Valley, they eat. I mean, I could use all kinds of terms here, but it's not nice if you're venture funded.
Sure.
type.
Sure. Yeah. How I like to explain, John, is true victory is achieved by harmony. Now, in Aikido, we're taught to not only protect ourselves, right? Someone is attacking me, but we're also taught to protect our opponent. And that is a very countercultural, very non-intuitive way of looking at things. Now, how does that translate into the business world? Well, you and I both know the business world is littered with cautionary tales of win at all costs, from WorldCom to Enron to Bernie Ebbers, everything like that. What I'm talking about here is that single-minded focus on win, 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 where you miss the broader picture. And what Aikido teaches is to expand your view to where you can actually see what your opponent is seeing. And it's a lesson that business people try to learn unsuccessfully for a lifetime. Because if you can see through your opponent's eyes, John, or your competition's eyes, then you can clearly see. You can be 10 steps ahead of them. You don't let your ego, your single-minded ego of win, 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 or another way of saying that is a fear of losing. Your fear and ego get in the way of ultimately succeeding. So yes, I'm not saying that we become passive and let somebody take advantage of us, or that we don't compete. Heck, as a Marine, as a marathon runner with 1.5 lungs, there was no way I could gut through that. I had to achieve it through harmony. So I'm just challenging listeners to see it from a different route, that we get so single-minded focused on this, we miss the bigger picture in front of us. And if you can see through your competitor's eyes, if you can see through your VC's eyes, imagine all the freedom you have to move at your pace to achieve your goals and be successful beyond your dream.
No, and I really like this. It reminds me of some advice Stephen Covey did in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective people, and I forgot what number it was, but seek to understand first, and then be understood. And and I think of another book. I think it's called Give and Take, or Giver and Takers. Adam Grant, fairly new book, and it's we're so many of us are so driven to win at all costs, where we don't want to consider the other people, whether it's the competitors, whether we have a vendor relationship and somebody's buying our services, whether it's a strategic partnership,
family,
family,
too.
There's so many interactions that we all have in relationships. And relationships, we get all caught up in videos and podcasts and emails and all these other things.
Yeah.
It's all, really it's relationship. Business, if you look, we got the Pareto principle, 80-20. For most businesses, it's kind of like 5% drives 90% of the profitability.
That's right.
And so, this win at all costs, if we're in this, one of the things, Michael, I'm a big believer in, the human longevity, what's going on in today's world, that we're going to be living longer.
Absolutely.
We take great care of ourselves, technology and so on. And your competitors, all those people around you, they're going to be around. They're going to remember these lessons. And if we start taking this, in my mind, the 25, I think you shared with me, you're 46, I'm 59.
Yeah.
I've got, 25 years in my mind that I'm going to continue doing business. And when you start looking at it like that, winning at all costs is not a very good thing with a 25-year, journey that we're all on together.
Right. Yeah, I agree 100%, John. Absolutely.
Well, and so, I look at this, and as we're kind of thinking through this process of what I've found, so how do we, let me dive a little deeper in this one too, Michael, because what happens, I've been there, I mean, your back's up against the wall.
Yep.
You've got and I can remember the 2008, 2009, one of my main businesses, I've got a few businesses, but it's coaching top financial advisors. There's a little financial downturn in 2008, 2009. One of the companies kind of forgot to pay me, owed, a 7-figure number. I don't even want to remember the exact number.
Sure.
One client no longer exists, type thing. And, I mean, it's really, you get in these survival modes. And fortunately, I had done well in other businesses, so I have capital, so that wasn't the issue. If I had been a new business, quite honestly, I probably would have failed. But, or not well funded, but and there were so many that did. What do you do when your back's up against the wall?
Sure.
I mean, we've all been there, and some of us are going to be there. Nobody gets out of life unscarred. You shared some of your scars. Everybody goes through life scarred. We are going to be up against the wall, with clients, with friends, with family, all kinds. How do we deal with that?
Sure. The first step, John, is what I call living from healthy priorities. Now, your back's up against the wall for a reason. And I know mine was up against the wall for a reason too. If I ask you, or any of the entrepreneurs out there now, where they're prioritizing, for example, I wasn't married at the time, but your spouse or your family or your business or your friends or yourself, I know when my back has been up against the wall, my priorities have been out of alignment. For me, and like for most of your audience, my vocation, my business was always number one. Then it was typically family, friends, football, sports center, and Michael Veltri was way down on the list. So to prevent even getting your back against the wall, John, I'm telling you, we got to live our lives from healthy priorities, and that's putting ourselves responsibly first, taking care of ourselves. I know I suffered wildly because I put my business before anything. And many people will say, oh, my kids come before anything. Well, I challenge you, if we're taking responsible self-care, putting ourselves first, and then from there, you'll have more time to spend on the business with your family and things like that. So for me, when the back is against the wall, the first thing we have to look at is prioritizing properly. And in my opinion, that's self. And if you're married, next one is your spouse, because you and I both know if the Mrs. or Mr. whoever is out of alignment and you're trying to pitch to raise funds or get the client and you spend all night fighting, if that's not a harmonious relationship, it's not going to work. Self, spouse, vocation, family. If we live from that healthy priority, then we're not getting our back up against the wall. When the back does come up against the wall from that healthy priority, then we're able to handle it in a much better way. And I can go into more details, but I don't want make sure I don't take up too much time in the podcast.
This is really good. And, I think of, the analogy I was thinking of taking care of yourself is, you're on the plane, you're a passenger on the plane, and, and you have a young child with you. And, they tell you not to put the oxygen mask on the child. You put it on yourself because you're no good if you're
brilliant,
you're
man.
down.
Yes.
And I see this over and over again. And I'm going to go just a little deeper here, because it's not only your health, but it's also your finances, not only in the business, but your personal, because you owe it to, I'll tell you, when I've gotten out of alignment, I've got a great wife who we're just about ready to celebrate 35 years of being married and so on. And there were a couple of times where I'm not sure she was sure she made the right decision along the way. And, and it was when I got out of alignment. And many times she was one of the guiding really posts to put me back in alignment. And this is, look to the great support people around you to, when you're getting out of whack, trust their judgment a bit too.
Yeah, and that is, if I do want to add one thing onto that, John, when we talk about responsible self-care, there's tons of area, there's financial, there's physical, so on and so forth. One thing I'd like to bring to your audience is what I call the environmental well-being. If you don't like it looks like you got a beautiful office there, man, right? Like, if you're not in a beautiful office that sources your creativity, you got to change. If you don't have the right people around you, you've got to do something about it. And I also want to introduce the concept of what's called the third place. We spend most of our time at home or at work, and then there's the third place where we spend the best part of them. Some people don't have a third place. For other people, it's the gym or the martial arts hall or church activity or volunteering. So I would challenge your audience too. Another way to get your back up from the wall is that third place is what charges you, recharges you. It allows you to learn a new skill, meet new people, meet new friends, develop your support structures to get, when your back is against the wall, you can tap into, for example, a rich masterminds community. And that is a third place to develop too. So I would say developing your third place, or even knowing that you can create a third place, is a huge benefit for anybody, no matter where they are in their entrepreneurial life.
Yeah, and I'm going to echo what you just said, Michael. When I've had some of the plushest offices in the world, the high rise, and I hated it type thing. And it wasn't because the furnishings weren't nice and all that stuff. It was the environment, politically, mentally, spiritually, the whole thing. And it's so important for us. If you really think about, we're on this long journey, and almost everybody that's listening or watching this podcast, we have 25 years, and we're going to be going out and making it our den in the universe. Yeah. We're going to be making a difference. And if we're going to do that, create the environment. And I haven't heard that before, the third place. And I think that's a really important one to have. And
for all your listeners, John, that are saying, wait a minute, my third place, I sleep and work and live at the office, then you got to do something about that right away, right?
Yeah, you can't have 1, 2, and 3 be all the same.
Be the same place. I've been there, right? And I was like, we've all been there before, so no, don't fall into that trap.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Let's go to the next segment.
Sure.
The book of the day. What would Michael? You are well read. You're out there. What would you recommend for your fellow entrepreneurs?
I really like Simon Sinek's Start With Why, his book, Start With Why. I know his TED Talk got a lot of it, but Start With Why asks you the question, why you're doing what you're doing. And I think many times we get caught up in what I call the success trap, John. That's what I learned early on when I became successfully miserable. And I lost my why. My why became unclear. So his book really allows you to get a little more clarity, right, on your why, whether that's in your business, in your personal relationships, or both. And I think it's a great book for everyone to consider, no matter where they are in their entrepreneurial life, or personal and professional life.
No, it's clearly what we all need to have. I mean, I always think of from a business standpoint, if we can match our passions, that why, with a group that we want to be heroes to. And then I always say the third circle is monetization. We've got to have a business model that's sustainable for all that.
Yeah.
Boy, life is just so good, and it allows us to build a business to support the quality of life that we want. And you're a great example of that, Michael. Let me go to the next segment.
Sure.
And this is the application of the day.
Sure.
Now, I know you travel a bit because I saw you're from the East Coast. You're on the West Coast with me. I travel too. We got smartphones. What would be the app that you would recommend?
Sure. I'm going to get to that, John, but as I told you, I'm going to challenge your listeners, too, to put these bad boys away as I show all those statistics I shared with you earlier. Practice putting it away and being a little more present. But the app I do use with much success is the iCloud. I wirelessly synchronize everything without having to do anything with my email, my contacts, my calendar, my notes, sort of like an Evernote app, across any and every device without having to lift a finger. To me, that's been, even if I lose the phone or my laptop, I can go to any web-based computer, have instant access to everything. So if pushed for an app, I really love the iCloud, but I'd also challenge your listeners to take a break from that smartphone every now and then too.
No, I totally agree. And it's one that it's not easy for all of us as entrepreneurs, but I'm going to echo again the cloud. If you're not, you should be moving everything to the cloud, no matter what size business you are. I don't care whether you're doing $1 million of revenue, or $1 billion of revenue. Getting that off. The cost structure of it, the redundancy, and then you get guys like me. I've dropped an iPad and a Microsoft Surface Pro 3. Actually, they got a great service agreement. They ship it to you the next day to get a new one. And it's a non-event because everything's in the cloud, and probably with a high-speed internet connection in 20 minutes, it's rebuilt itself. So it's unbelievable. Okay, let's go to the next section, which is resources. And Michael, tell us a little bit about your website. Let me pull that up here.
Sure.
And I've got it up on the screen. If you're watching, obviously, a video podcast, you have it, or on YouTube or wherever you are. If not, always can come back to our aesnation.com to get the show links for everything Michael and I talk about. But Michael, tell us a little bit about your website, what's there, and how you can help them be more successful.
Sure, John. So on my website, I offer several things. Obviously, I enjoy speaking to audiences. I have a dynamic keynote where I talk about specifically what we discussed today, how to apply these elegant Aikido principles into your business and personal life. Also on the website is my blog, where I'm blogging about these principles and this concept of what we call mushin, which mushin in Japanese means no mind. And that's that freedom from ego and fear to actually be able to have that clarity, John, to make the right decision at the right time in this hyper-connected, fast-paced society when the outcome is unclear. And the pace is fast. So I blog about that. People can sign up for my blog. I have a book coming out. Since I'm going the traditional publishing route, we're hoping for spring of 2016. They can download a sample chapter, read more about the book I have coming out, applying these principles. And then I also offer some really unique corporate workshops, and people can find out more about that on the website too, whether it's on site or I have a real high-end trip to Japan. I'll be taking a group of high achievers to Japan in August, as a matter of fact. And man, we have room. You can practice your let me know how your karaoke pipes are from those days in Japan. But on the website, they can find all that information and a lot more to find out about me and my services and the products that I offer.
No, that's great, Michael. And let me do the last segment here. Key takeaways. And Michael, I've got a whole bunch of notes. I knew it was going to be a great interview, and it really has been. And this is what I want to encourage everyone, out of each of these interviews. I mean, I feel so privileged, quite honestly, to have the opportunity to talk with talented fellow entrepreneurs like yourself, Michael, who are really out there making a difference. And these insights are great, but it's all about us taking action. And I want to go over each of the three. Being strong can make you weak. We gave a whole bunch of examples. This is that hard charging, type A. We can go all kinds of type of behaviors that we have as entrepreneurs, and clearly do need to have a strong ego and all that, but make sure that your strengths aren't making you weak. If we're going to scale up our businesses, and that's really what we're talking about here, is we've got to have a great team around us. And we've got to be able to delegate, and you have to be that leader to inspire and not get caught up in some of your strengths. Second, you always have a choice. Michael gave some great examples of this, and this is, not making a choice is a choice. And if we're going to provide the leadership, we have to be deliberate, we have to be successful on purpose, and this is not leaving anything to chance. We're not going to always make the right decisions, but make those incremental. I love the ready, fire, aim. Be thoughtful, get the resources that you have, the people you have, make the best decision at the time, let the marketplace tell you, do some fine tuning, and then, go with it type. And it's just, but pilot. And then true victory by harmony. I mean, this sounds fuzzy. It is not. It's, the win at all cost. I've just seen, I'm in the financial services industry all my life. I've seen so many people blow up in that industry. As a matter of fact, I was just reading an article in the Wall Street Journal today of the number of suicides in financial services. It's one of the highest paid, and these young, mostly males, really, probably great college athletes, driven people, and they lose perspective of all this. So, what I'm going to encourage everyone to do, Michael, as you've done, is, let's make sure, download the transcription, take the show notes, look at all the links, put these into actions. Your clients, your future clients, your shareholders, your partners, your teammates, your family, and your significant other, they're all counting on you. Don't let them down. We wish you the best of success.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. AESNation.com.